Welcome back to Movie Recaps. Today, I will share with you a classic suspense thriller movie from 1963. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. John Haloran walks towards a wooden boat, listening to the radio in the middle of the night. His young wife Louise follows him, asking him to go to bed. John says he will stay up late, so he will go on the boat on his own. However, Louise joins him. They set off. On the boat, Louise starts a conversation about John's rich mother, Lady Haloran's will. She thinks Lady Haloran is crazy to leave everything to charity in the name of a mysterious Kathleen. John tells Louise that she has always been greedy, and if he dies before his mother, she will become a stranger to the family and won't get anything. The argument and the exertion from rowing cause John to have a heart attack. Louise tries to help him with his medication, but the pillbox is empty. While Louise is rowing towards the bank, John dies. She quickly schemes and throws John over the boat's side, and he drowns to the bottom of the lake. Louise types a letter from John saying that he wouldn't be able to join Kathleen's memorial ceremony this year as he is away to New York for urgent work. She copies John's signature at the bottom. Determined to make Lady Haloran change her will, she makes sure she doesn't leave a clue, especially for John's younger brother, Richard. Louise packs John's stuff that he would take on a trip and throws it in the lake along with his typewriter. Next day, Louise invites herself to Castle Haloran in Ireland. She meets John's brother, Richard. Louise learns from Billy that Kathleen is actually their youngest sister. She never knew about her before this. Lady Haloran considered Kathleen a gift, as she was 40 when Kathleen was born to her. She wrote a poem for her. 3 sons, each would marry and go away, but little Kathleen will always stay, which is also engraved on Kathleen's tombstone. Upon asking, Richard tells Louise that Kathleen had drowned in a pond when she was little. Louise gets scared. The next morning, Kane, Richard's fiancé, arrives from America by an airline. Billy, John's youngest brother, picks her up at the airport. He excuses on behalf of Richard, and while receiving Kane's luggage on the belt, Billy tells her that John's wife had also joined them this year, who is also from America. On the way, Billy mentions to Kane that Castle Haloran is haunted and it gives him nightmares. When they arrive at the huge Castle Haloran, Billy leads Kane to Richard's workshop. Richard makes sculptures. When he sees Kane, he gets excited and they share a passionate kiss. Lady Haloran inquires Louise about her stay and when John was to return. Louise efficiently replies that John himself wasn't sure and she was to join him in New York if he doesn't make it back for a long time. Louise acts excited to meet them finally and tells Lady Haloran that she was there to represent John at the memorial ceremony. Lady Haloran coldly says that she would like only the immediate family members to share their thoughts on Kathleen's memorial. Richard gets upset and leaves the table. Lady Haloran follows him to find out what's wrong. Richard tells his mother that he's going to marry Kane, so he would like her to be included in the ceremony. Lady Haloran says that she will tell Kane that she doesn't care about her, but Richard threatens not to forget that if she hurts Kane. Outside, Kane and Richard kiss to the displeasure of Lady Haloran. The next morning, Kane rides a horse as Richard watches her. Louise comes and says that it is a nice change watching someone having fun in the boring castle, especially being American. She asks Richard what is he going to do about his mother's disapproval of Kane. Richard counter-questions her what she was going to do about his mother's will as he saw Louise squirming when his mother was reading her will. Richard taunts that she must give a heart attack to John with her dirty looks. Louise casually tells him that he shouldn't make such jokes as John has heart problems. Richard aggressively tells Louise to mind her own business and stay away from him. The butler, Arthur, shows Louise where she is staying. It is a tall tower. Louise asks the butler about Kathleen's incident as he has been in service for 20 years. He tells Louise that Lord Haloran was a loved man and arranged a big wedding ceremony for a countryman at the castle. Kathleen, dressed as a bridesmaid, was running around when suddenly she went missing. There hasn't been a wedding in the castle since then. Louise intriguingly asks if there wasn't going to be a wedding for Richard and Kane. The butler replies that he doesn't know about whether it is going to happen or not, but he highly doubts it is going to be held at the castle. Early next morning, Billy stands by the pond where Kathleen drowned. He trances back into the memory of him and Kathleen playing as young children. He remembers trying to snatch something away from Kathleen when Kane calls him out. Kane asks him what he was lost in thought about. He says that he was remembering his sister and that he still hears her laughing. Kane tries to distract him by complimenting Ireland and the pond. However, Billy keeps mentioning how his mother kept crying the whole night when Kathleen went missing, and how they found her floating at the pond the next day. He says that every year they redo Kathleen's memorial ceremony the same way as they did her funeral, as he aggressively hurls an axe into a tree. Kane tries to calm him down by asking why do they do it every year when 7 years have passed. Billy says that she wouldn't understand why, and shifts the topic by telling Kane that he is not that morbid generally, but the funeral ceremony made him feel this way. As they walk away, Kane gets startled by Simon, a poacher, hiding in the bushes. Simon pardons Billy for being caught once again and apologizes to Kane for giving her a fright and leaves. Billy starts a casual conversation with Kane about Simon getting caught every now and then setting traps for rabbits in their land as they keep walking towards the castle. At the ceremony, Lady Haloran, Billy, and Richard stand beside Kathleen's grave while Kane and Louise watch from the balconies of their rooms. Just like every year, Lady Haloran collapses. Louise comes running to help her and accompanies her to her room. Louise asks Lady Haloran about what made her collapse. She says that one of the flowers died as it touched Kathleen's grave. In her room, Louise dabs Lady Haloran with wet cloth to bring her fever down. Louise, realizing that Lady Haloran is emotionally overwhelmed and superstitious, makes up a story that she can feel Kathleen wandering in the halls of the castle. She adds that Kathleen wants to communicate with her mother and that she should look out for the signs in order to know what Kathleen wants. Louise sneaks in Kathleen's room through the window and steals some of her toys. She bumps into Richard in the hall, who asks her what she was doing there. She doesn't respond and leaves the castle. Her plan is to place Kathleen's toys at the bottom of the pond where they would mysteriously float up in a ghostly way. Louise swims underwater and begins placing the toys at the bottom of the pond when she sees Kathleen's perfectly preserved corpse. Frightened at the sight, she quickly surfaces and is abruptly attacked by an unknown assailant with an axe. He stabs Louise multiple times and kills her, then drags her bloody corpse away. The family doctor, Justin Caleb, arrives the next morning to see Lady Haloran. He tells her that she should relax her mind and let things go. It is hysteria which makes her imagine things that make her collapse every year. Lady Haloran isn't impressed and tells Dr. Justin to treat her body, not her mind. Dr. Justin says that both are connected. He advises Lady Haloran to rest and relax. Soon, Lillian, the housemaid, knocks at the door and comes in. She informs Lady Haloran that Louise isn't in her room. She doubts she slept there last night. Lady Haloran gets anxious and asks Lillian to find her as soon as possible and tell her to come see Lady Haloran. Dr. Justin finds it interesting seeing Lady Haloran suddenly being so anxious about her daughter-in-law. He asks Lillian to prepare lunch for them to have at the terrace. Lillian asks Billy, who's coming back from a drive with Kane, if he has seen Louise, but he casually responds he doesn't know and that she should try asking Richard. They all come to the terrace for lunch when Kane asks Richard where he has been. Richard says that he was doing some sculpture work. Billy asks Richard if he has seen Louise, but he says he hasn't. Dr. Caleb and Lady Haloran join. Lillian tells Lady Haloran that Louise is nowhere to be found in the castle, and none of the cars except Billy's have been moved. All of them make fun of Louise's greediness when suddenly Lady Haloran observes Kathleen's toys floating on the pond water. She gets excited and exclaims that Kathleen wants to contact them. All of them go towards the pond. Dr. Caleb says that the toys must belong to the gardener's children, but Billy says that he saw them float up from the bottom of the pond. Dr. Caleb says that someone out of the household members has a highly imaginative and statistically affected mind who's playing these ridiculous pranks, which are very dangerous for Lady Haloran. Richard hands one of the dolls to Dr. Caleb and tells him to investigate his theory. Dr. Caleb leaves, telling Billy to get the rest of the dolls. As Billy is getting the dolls, he gets a memory from his childhood when Kathleen fell into the pond. Back in his workshop, Richard forges some iron and Kane asks him about the delay in their marriage. Richard tells her that since Kathleen died, everything has been weird. Billy turned only 13 2 months after her death and came screaming to his room every other night. Lady Haloran still mourns Kathleen's death and refused to see Lord Haloran when he died. Richard asks Kane to make a choice if she wants to stay and wait with him for things to sort out or move on with her life. Kane decides to stay. Then Simon, the poacher, sneaks into the property to hunt game. He keeps looking, but finds nothing. He came across a cave under the bush where he sees Kathleen's dead body. He gets scared and quickly crawls out. The mysterious killer decapitates Simon with his axe and his head rolls down into the pond. Dr. Caleb asks the butler to drain the pond. Arthur seems hesitant, but Dr. Caleb bribes him with money and offers more when he's done with the job. The next morning, the butler opens the gates to drain the pond. The following night, Lady Haloran, still holding on to Louise's lie, takes Kathleen's favorite tiara that she wanted to put in her coffin. She goes to the backyard and opens the door when Kathleen's doll pram startles her. She goes inside and sees what seems to be Kathleen's perfectly preserved corpse sitting at the table, having a tea party. Lady Haloran goes to put the tiara on her head when she droops and a shadow passes behind her. The shadowy figure attacks Lady Haloran with an axe, but she escapes and collapses in the castle's courtyard. The attacker picks up Kathleen's corpse as always. Lillian and Kane find Lady Haloran, and Kane asks Lillian to call the doctor while she keeps on calling out for Richard. Patrick arrives and checks her heartbeat. Then Billy arrives, and finally Richard comes and finds the tiara. He takes her into the castle. Inside the castle, Kane finds Billy melting a candle on paper. She tells Billy that he should go to bed instead of sitting alone, which could make him depressed. Billy paints a horrid picture of his room and tells Kane that his room is down in the corridor where his grandfather died of heart attack, past the flight of stairs where his uncle tripped and broke his spine. Kane asks if that's the reason for his nightmares and asks what nightmares he has. Billy relays a disturbing nightmare that he sees, that he's a little boy and hears scraping noises from the window. When he looks outside, a man is climbing who is familiar, but Billy doesn't recognize him. The man comes in through the window when Billy's mother is also there. The man says that he is insane and another person in the world is also insane. That person nods when the man nods. The man starts nodding, and when Billy looks up, his mother is nodding. Then she holds him up and plants him outside. Kane gets disturbed and tells him to go to bed. She mentions Richard, and Billy says that he just realized that the man in the dream is Richard. The next morning, Arthur comes to talk about something urgent to Dr. Caleb at the breakfast table. He tells Dr. Caleb that the pond has been drained and there's something he'd want Dr. Caleb to see. Dr. Caleb goes out and Richard angrily follows him. Kane and Billy also follow Richard. They find a stone shrine at the bottom of the pond where the words, "Forgive me, Kathleen," have been carved. Dr. Caleb suspects it's the work of Richard. Richard says that he works in iron, but Dr. Caleb says that he worked in stone 6 years ago. Kane tries to defend Richard, then Richard says that Louise happened to have disappeared, and then these strange things started happening. She was a greedy woman, and last night Lady Haloran was found with Kathleen's expensive diamond tiara. Dr. Caleb says that she had never been to Castle Haloran before, so she couldn't have done it. Richard leaves angrily. Kane inquires Dr. Caleb what he wants to prove. Dr. Caleb says that he just wants to solve the mystery of the nightmare that has disturbed the whole family for 6 years. Dr. Caleb asks Billy to collaborate with him to find Louise, as he also thinks it's her. Billy agrees, and they leave to search the town. Meanwhile, Richard walks through a tunnel, and Kane follows him secretly. He goes to a room full of stone sculptures. Kane follows him there, but screams when she gets frightened by a rat. Richard sees her, and she asks him what he was doing there. Richard tells Kane that it's his father's workshop, and he came to see who used his tools to carve the tomb. Kane apologizes for doubting him and asks him to marry her quickly, as his mother has gone crazy, and they start making out. They fail to see Kathleen's wax figure hidden behind some curtains. Dr. Caleb takes Billy to a bar and makes him a drink. He asks him about Louise, and he gets nervous. Billy is hypnotized and starts humming an obscure rhyme. "Fishy, fishy in the brook, Daddy caught you on a hook." Richard and Kane get married. At the wedding, Kane runs around the place looking for Richard when Dr. Caleb tells her that Louise didn't leave, she was taken. And he suspects John isn't in New York either. The family has dementia problems since Kathleen's death, and that Kane was in danger. Kane gets annoyed and asks, is she in danger from Richard? Dr. Caleb says, maybe, but could be anyone. Richard enters the room and Kane asks him to take her outside as she's upset. They go to a barn and make out. Meanwhile, Dr. Caleb tries to decode the rhyme that Billy said under hypnosis and finds Louise's bloody, frozen corpse hung in the meat closet. He also finds Kathleen's wax sculpture, brings it outside, and places it on the fountain to lure the killer out. The wedding guests start gathering around the sculpture. Someone screams. Richard and Kane run out to see what's going on. They see Kathleen's sculpture. Kane tries to touch her, when suddenly, gibbering Billy attacks her with the axe, yelling, "Don't touch her!" Dr. Caleb saves Kane by shooting Billy. Billy suffers from dementia as he pushed Kathleen into the pond trying to snatch a trombone. He has gone insane with the guilt and says, "Forgive me, Kathleen," before dying. Richard asks Dr. Caleb about Kathleen's body. He smashes it with Billy's axe and tells them it's a wax sculpture.